This is Tales and Whispers, where every story is felt, not just heard.
Today, we're going to get into a true story that is honestly as shocking as it is profound. It's one of those stories that really forces you to question the line between tradition, social pressure, and our own basic humanity. So, I want you to just picture this scene for a second. We're in the village of Samaspur in Uttar Pradesh, India. The air is just electric with celebration. You can hear the sounds of joy, you can see the bright lights, everything is set up for an absolutely perfect night. And right there, at the very center of it all, are the bride and groom, Surabhi and Manjesh Kumar. They're standing together, they're surrounded by all these smiling faces, and they're just about to exchange their flower garlands. You know, that final, beautiful step in their wedding ceremony. The whole community is there just sharing in their happiness. But then suddenly, just as Manjesh raises the garland, Surabhi's expression changes. Her hands start to tremble, and right there in front of everyone, she just collapses to the ground. The music, it just stops. The laughter dies, and this heavy, stunned silence just falls over the entire crowd. Instantly, it's chaos. Was it the heat? Was it just the overwhelming stress of the day? Guests are rushing forward, somebody's yelling for a doctor, but Surabhi's mother, she's just standing there, completely paralyzed by shock. The speed of what happens next is just staggering. A doctor arrives within minutes, but there's nothing he can do. He delivers this single, devastating sentence: Surabhi has died of a massive cardiac arrest. So a joyous wedding has just turned into an unimaginable tragedy. But believe it or not, what follows is even more unbelievable. Surabhi's body is carried to a room next door, and it's covered with the very same flowers that were meant to celebrate her life. Now, in this moment of just profound grief, you would expect everything to just stop, right? But it didn't. I mean, think about it for a second. When you're faced with a sudden, heartbreaking loss, what's the natural human response? It's to grieve, right? To support one another, to honor the person who's gone. But that is not what happened that night. Instead, the elders of both families gathered. But their conversation, it wasn't about the girl they had just lost. No, it was about logistics. The guests who had traveled so far, the food that was already prepared, the money that had been spent. Their main question became, so, what do we do about the wedding? And with this chilling sense of practicality, an unthinkable proposal was made. The logic was, the groom is here, the ceremony is ready, the celebration must not go to waste. So, Surabhi's younger sister Nisha would take her place and marry Manjesh Kumar tonight. What happened next was this direct, devastating clash between these deeply ingrained social customs and the most basic of human emotions: grief, decency, and just respect for the dead. And right here you can see the core conflict just laid bare. On one side you have everything that grief requires: a pause, a time for mourning, for support. But on the other side were the demands of tradition, to continue the ceremony, to save face, to fulfill an obligation. That night, tradition won, hands down. In what must have been just a surreal and nightmarish scene, Nisha was dressed in her sister's wedding jewelry. The rituals just resumed. The vows were exchanged. The wedding was completed, all while Surabhi's body lay in the very next room. And what's maybe the most chilling part of all this is that nobody in attendance really objected. You know, this story isn't just shocking because it's strange, it's shocking because of the idea behind it. It reveals this terrifying truth. Any tradition that forces you to trample on someone's feelings, their freedom, or their dignity is a broken tradition. It doesn't matter how many people follow it. Now, it's so easy to judge this situation from a distance, isn't it? But it forces us to ask, how does this kind of social pressure show up in our own lives? Because while the circumstances might not be as extreme, the underlying mechanism is often exactly the same. Think about all the major life decisions that get made not by choice, but under the weight of expectation. The pressure to get married or maybe to stay in a bad marriage. The career path that's chosen to please parents, not yourself. Forcing a reconciliation that isn't genuine just to keep the peace. Or how about staying silent when you see something wrong because speaking up would make things uncomfortable for the group? So this leads to a really critical takeaway. When a life-altering decision is being made under immense pressure, for you or for someone else, the most important question you can ask is this: who will actually have to live with the consequences? The group or the individual who's at the center of it all? So, understanding the problem is one thing,
But what can you actually do when you see pressure overriding a person's well-being? Well, there are 3 simple but really powerful actions you can take.
First, just stop the momentum. High-pressure decisions are almost always rushed. You have to insist on creating space and time for real reflection. Second, get explicit consent from the person involved, privately, away from the influence of the crowd. And third, and this is the most important one, consciously prioritize the individual's dignity over the group's comfort or public appearance.
The story of Surabhi and Nisha is just this haunting reminder of what can happen when we allow the demands of the group to completely silence the needs of the individual. And it leaves us with one final and deeply personal question.
If you had been a guest at that wedding, would you have said something? When the family started discussing logistics over their grief? When they proposed a new bride? Or when they led a grieving sister to the altar? At what point does our shared humanity compel us to speak up? It's definitely something worth thinking about.